Hey guys, Coach Lawson. So, the test that your doctor should have ordered but never did. All right, so today I've got some very common questions that directly pertain to this topic of testing because logically, if you think about it, appropriate testing matters because if you don't get tested properly, it's going to be pretty much impossible to figure out and identify your root causes, right? So let's just go ahead and get started. Question number one. Coach Lawson, you've been practicing since 2013 and all that time working with chronically ill patients. What is the single biggest gap you see in how conventional medicine approaches testing? Okay, so conventional medicine primarily uses blood samples to do the vast majority of their testing. So the issue with that is if we're really getting down and serious to finding out root causes, they don't hang out in the blood. So mold does not hang out in the blood. Heavy metal accumulation does not hang out in the blood. Other chemical compounds do not hang out in the blood. If we're speaking about nutrients, very few, there's a couple, but not many nutrients are able to be properly and most accurately tested in the blood. There's a handful, but there's hundreds and hundreds of nutrients that we need to identify and see what's going on with those because deficiencies equally as important to your accumulated poisons are doing the same thing in a different mechanism, but they are still suppressing your immune system, suppressing your ability to function, suppressing the organ's performance, and essentially weakening you as a being and immunity-wise as well, obviously. So a lot of people are getting sick, right, very early, and they're getting really sick, and it's not a good time for longevity as things are moving forward here. So really all comes down to the immune system. So yes, I think back to the question, so conventional medicine is just completely missing the mark. And they do that because they're not looking for your real root causes to your poor health. So they're looking for disease states which are downstream. All diseases are a downstream effect. It's something that comes later after your immune is significantly suppressed. So they're looking for disease states and imbalances which are downstream effects as well, because what they do is they pharmaceutically treat those diseases and imbalances. So not addressing the reasons why you have these disease states, whether it could be any type of disease. I do a lot of autoimmune and mast cell activation, but really it doesn't really matter what disease that you have. Could be a neurological disease, could be anything, but these are all caused by the poisons you have inside, all your deficiencies, suppressed immune system, and then depending on your genetics and certain other variations, that's how you're going to present your symptomology. Okay? All right. So let's move on to question number 2. You run all of your testing exclusively through Mosaic Diagnostics. Can you walk us through the specific panels you use and why you choose each one? Okay, So let's start with the HTMA. That's the hair tissue minerals analysis. So this test measures your accumulated levels of heavy metals. Okay, so I know a lot of people have done heavy metal testing with urine. Most of the time that's what I see, but the problem is when you test metals through urine, it's only a current snapshot. It doesn't show you the actual accumulated levels in the body. So that's a very faulty way to determine how metal toxic you may be. All right, so that's why you do the hair with that. So this panel that I use is a very comprehensive. It measures very comprehensively. So that includes, and this again is something to take note of, because a lot of HTMA labs do not test for uranium. So obviously I've been testing for uranium for quite a while now. And you want to make sure that you're getting a complete panel of metals and minerals when you're doing this test. Otherwise, there's minerals that you can miss. Obviously, there's metals that you could miss if you're not measuring your levels. So you're not really getting a complete picture. So it's very important to measure your metals properly and comprehensively. Uranium, obviously, mercury, aluminum, nickel, lead, titanium, tin, barium, arsenic. These are a lot of the metals that I test. There's more than that, but these are some of the primary players with heavy metal toxicity. So as far as the minerals are concerned, just equally, and nobody really understands this, equally as important as your heavy metal profile. You want a very low heavy metal profile, and you want a very optimized mineral profile, right? You don't want to be low and deficient in all these different minerals that we need, because that's actually two things. It's building your immune system and actually building your body. So you're going to have a very weak, you're going to be weak physically, and you're going to have a weak immune system if your mineral profile is not good. So again, for the majority of the minerals, the best way to measure them is through the hair, and that's a really key component to building the immune system back up and the body. So this will make you super resilient, super strong, if you're actually doing this testing and following the appropriate protocol to this. Okay? So let's move on to the second test. So this is the OAT test. It's organic acid test. So I run this test as one of my required tests in this panel, root cause panel, because it's got 70 plus markers on it. But more importantly than the quantity is the quality of these markers. So this test is measuring for various infections, various nutrient levels and nutrient deficiencies. It also measures mold, not comprehensively, but it does measure Aspergillus and Fusarium molds to it as well. It measures infections like C. diff, which is very, very not a good infection. No infection, gut infection's good, right? But you don't want C. diff infections, and probably about 10 to 20% of my clients actually have active C. diff infections. So this test also measures neurotransmitter levels, various other markers, but it's just like the gold standard of all the fundamental basic markers that we need to know. This gives me a really good representation of the status of your health just from this one test. Okay, so The next test is a mycotox test. It's a very comprehensive mycotox test that tests several different species of mold. And this test is done as well as the oat test. They're both tested through urine. And it is what it is with the mycotox test. It's testing for your accumulated levels of mold. And 95% of my clients are mold toxic. So as your immune system decreases, your potential to accumulate more and more mold actually elevates, and you are most likely going to have mold toxicity. Every now and then I have somebody that's not mold toxic, but that's probably like 1 in 20 or something like that. Okay, so the next test is the non-metals toxicity test. So this test is measuring chemical compounds. It's not metal, it's not molds, it's pretty much everything else. So this is VOCs, phthalates, parabens, plastics, rubbers, fumes, fungicides, herbicides, pesticides, things of that nature. There's about 26 markers here on this test. And once again, these are poisons in your body that you've accumulated. They are causing damage. They're suppressing your immune system. And, you have to test and identify these different poisons because we have to effectively address them and get them removed. Otherwise, they're just going to keep causing damage. And what they do is, some of them have a more of affinity for causing things like cancer and whatnot, but they're all pretty much, the majority of them are carcinogenic. They're suppressing your immune system, setting you up for gut infections, for really anything under the sun to happen. Poison, right? Logically, when we have poison, that's damaging, suppressing us. And it's really a bad combination, when you have all this poison and the nutrient deficiencies. So your immune system in your body doesn't really have a chance, and that's why you start to accruing these symptoms, and then over time, over the months and the years, for most people, they get worse and worse and worse. So reason being is because once they're accumulated, they're not being released, and additionally, they're most likely continuing to be exposed to these chemicals and maybe additional chemicals or additional metals as well. And most likely, again, they're probably becoming more and more deficient in vital nutrients that they need as well. Okay. And the final test, the fifth test that I require is a comprehensive stool test. This kind of goes without explaining, but I want to say this. I use Mosaic Laboratory. I've been using them, formerly GPL. I've been using them for the whole time since I got started 13 years ago. I actually started when I got sick with them 14 years ago. I've been using them exclusively, but they are one of the few premier functional labs in the country. But getting back to the stool test, very different, just so you know, very different than a conventional stool test that you would do from your regular doctor's office. That one is extremely limited. And not sure how accurate it is either, but a good functional stool test is what you want. It's very comprehensive, it's very accurate, and that's what we're looking for, obviously. So in the stool test, it's looking for infections. I would say 80 to 90% of my clients do have active infections that show up on this test. It's looking for, also measures your good bacteria, so we kind of know what we need to incorporate as far as bringing up some of your bacteria. If you're low in good bacteria, then that's an easy solution to add into the protocol. But it's looking at other markers like fatty acid profile. It's looking at your secretory IgA, which I love to look at that one because your secretory IgA is your primary immune marker in the gut. And everybody knows by now that the gut is around, holds about 80% or so of the immune system. So very important marker, the secretory IgA. And rarely do I ever get a client that has a good level of secretory IgA. Typically it's way high and off the chart because their immune system's in overdrive trying to deal with all the toxicity and dysbiosis in the gut, or it's way deficient because it's now after shooting up so high and trying to deal with everything, and now it's getting fatigued out, and then that's when they become even more and more sick. The person becomes more and more sick, and then their secretory IgA starts to plummet and becomes deficient. So that's even worse than if it's high off the chart. Both of them not good, obviously. So, but that's why a comprehensive stool, a good functional stool test is essential to have, so we know what we're dealing with and what type of infections you have and how to address them. Okay, so let's go to the next question. It's going to be, you made a very specific clinical distinction about accumulated toxicant levels versus current exposure. Can you explain what that means and why it matters so much to you clinically? Okay, sure. So I believe that question is in regards to heavy metals. So the urine, testing metals in urine is a current snapshot. And clinically, again, that's not prudent because we don't know of that current exposure what you're going to release and what you're not. Maybe you're excreting the majority or all of that metal. That test is useful certain situations, rare occasions. I have never really had to use it hardly at all. It just doesn't show accumulated levels. So that's really what I'm looking for, is I need to know how much metal you have inside, and then that's what we're going to target and address, because that's what we need to remove, because that metal is affecting different organs, systems, tissue. It's all over. So metals affect the brain, they affect the kidneys, they affect the liver, various tissues. They can get into the bone. They can pretty much go anywhere, but they're a huge issue with health and your immune system, obviously. So question number 4, most practitioners order, this is a good question. Most practitioners order Epstein-Barr, Lyme, and viral load panels when they see chronic illness. You don't. Can you explain your thinking behind that approach? Okay, so first of all, I want to say that I don't have a problem with doing an EBV test or a Lyme test. I'm not against it. It's just something that I don't feel the need to add on to everything else that we're doing, because based on your story and your symptoms, and I have a really good picture of your immune system with all the testing that we're doing, I can kind of put that all together and give you a pretty confident answer if you have active EBV or Lyme, okay, without testing. So especially Lyme testing, very expensive. To get a good Lyme test, you're looking at probably another $1,200 minimum, maybe more than that. Lyme testing can go up to several thousands, $3,000 or $4,000 is for a really exclusive optimal Lyme test, but even a decent one's at least $1,200, $1,500. Not a point to do that in my opinion. Again, I know if you have active Lyme or active EBV or not, and we can simultaneously address that as we proceed. Okay. So question number 5. as the first and original practitioner to identify and effectively address uranium toxicity, what would you say to a person who has been chronically ill for years, whose labs always come back normal, and who is watching this video right now? Okay, so with this one, well, let's start with labs, because labs is the key word here. Conventional labs, as we've already stated here, are not going to show and identify your root causes to real heavy metals, molds, chemical compounds, etc. So I think that's the first thing. And then additionally to that, if we want to extend on the metals, uranium, obviously they're not testing you for uranium. And I just wanted to bring that up again, mention uranium again, because it's just so under the radar. You know, nobody knows about uranium toxicity yet. I've been exposing this for and effectively addressing it for 5 years now, but very prevalent. 70, I think, if you've seen my other information on my pages, just about 70% of all of my clients are uranium toxic. So with that question, just she's not getting tested properly, and that's why when her labs come back normal, they're normal for what they're looking for, which is not root causes. Okay, and we got one more here. So question number 6. If someone watching this video wants to get properly tested, what is the first step they should take? So getting appropriately and properly tested, number one, it needs to be through a very good premier functional lab. There's only a few of those. Again, I use Mosaic. I've been using them exclusively for 14 years now, including my own personal testing. And yes, I do order testing. Usually it's for my clients. I will order tests for you if you come to me and we have a short conversation. Without you being my client, that's not always a requirement. So I can order your testing for you. Now, these are the 5 tests that I require to actually work with me. If you don't want to do all 5, that's okay. We can still work out something, but I require all 5 of these to actually work with me, because you know, this is health, and you don't want to miss something. So if there's markers and toxicities and deficiencies and infections, whatever, that we miss, you know, it's hard to get you, get your health to where the level that it has potential to be if we miss markers and miss things, right? So very important to do all of these. Again, you may have some of these already done, potentially 1 or 2 of these done, and I can definitely use those if they're fairly recent. Within the last 6 or 8 months, typically I can use these results that you have. So regardless whether it's with me or someone else, you need these tests and get them from a very good functional lab. Okay. If you like this video, if it was informative, if it helped you a little bit, please subscribe, and also please share the video with anyone that you know who is sick and that their labs look pretty good and nobody can figure out, what's wrong with them. Most likely haven't been tested appropriately. And finally, follow along, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I've got much more information about health. That's what I do, chronic illness. So I will see you in the next video, and reach out, send me a DM, or contact me through immunitycoach.org. You can see my website there. I've got tons of information, obviously, but probably best to contact me through my site, immunitycoach.org, and I'll see you soon.